Prime Minister said the Islamic State is behind the blast near the Blue Mosque in Istanbul that killed 10 and wounded 15. The deputy head of Iran's atomic energy organization today denied reports that Iran has removed the core of the Arak nuclear facility. The fifth member of Israel's submarine fleet, INS Rahav, arrived at the port of Haifa, an event honored with a brass-studded celebration. Good evening. Welcome to I-24 News. I'm Danny Swibel with your hour's top stories. A suspected member of the Islamic State group is believed to be behind today's blast in the central square near the Blue Mosque in Istanbul that killed 10 and injured 15 people, with the Turkey's prime minister, deputy prime minister, saying most of the victims were foreigners. The I-24 News Desk has more.
According to senior Turkish officials, a 28-year-old Syrian suicide bomber linked with the Islamic State organization detonated a bomb in an historic district of Istanbul popular with tourists Tuesday morning, killing at least 10 people and wounding 15 others.
We express our condolences to those who lost their lives. Unfortunately, most of them are foreigners. 15 people are wounded and 2 of them are in critical condition. We will visit them at hospital first thing after flying to Istanbul, and we will have a briefing at Istanbul governor's office afterwards.
9 out of the 10 deceased were German tourists.
Those affected are members of a German tourist group, and of course the German Foreign Ministry immediately set up a crisis meeting. We are trying to gather all the information as quickly as possible. I will be discussing the situation over the phone with Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu in the next few hours.
Meanwhile, some tourists say they will remain in Istanbul despite the deadly attacks.
I just have one day left, but if I was staying longer, I would stay. I come from a country that is also violent, so I don't think terrorism should take the hold of us, and then we should be brave about it.
Bravery, it seems, is a precondition to visit or live in a country whose own president defined it as the top target for all terrorist groups in the region.
And the deputy head of Iran's atomic energy organization denied reports that Iran had removed the core of the Arak nuclear facility, adding that Tehran was still working on an agreement for a replacement being redesigned with the help of China and the United States. The dismantling of the reactor is a key step in the deal that will see sanctions lifted in exchange for limits on Tehran's nuclear program. Under the deal, Tehran reduced the number of its centrifuges and transferred the bulk of its low-enriched uranium stockpile to Russia. We were joined earlier by Iran expert Meir Javadanfar, who elaborated on this latest development.
It's possible that they're actually continuing to dismantle or have dismantled the Arak nuclear reactor. But you see, today is a sensitive day in the Iranian nuclear calendar. Today is the assassination, it's the 6th anniversary of the assassination of the Iranian nuclear scientist Mansour Ali Mohammadi. And if the Iranians, the reason could be that they don't want to announce it because it's insensitive on the day that it's the anniversary of the assassination of one of the nuclear scientists, they say, okay, we've now dismantled the Arak nuclear reactor. Something the IAEA is going to want to get involved yet. But one thing the Iranians know for sure is that no sanctions will be lifted until such times that they have fulfilled their commitments to the IAEA.
And the body of French Jewish politician Alain Gosselin was found riddled with stab wounds in his apartment near Paris. Gosselin's body was found Tuesday morning after his brother called police because Gosselin failed to show up to their synagogue, as he usually does every morning. The man's apartment was thoroughly searched, possibly by the intruders, and his body showed deep lacerations that appeared to have been caused by a knife. Police, as of now, have no leads into his death. And the fifth member of Israel's burgeoning submarine fleet, the INS Rahav, arrived at the port of Haifa, feted with a brass-studded celebration. At the ceremony, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the Rahav, which according to a foreign report is nuclear capable, will be a key part of the country's strategy of defensive deterrence, adding that Israel's fighting threats in the air, on the ground, underground, in cyberspace, in outer space, and underwater. I-24 News correspondent Shai Ben-Ari was at the event and filed this report.
We're here at the ports of Haifa, where we just witnessed the welcoming ceremony for the INS Rahav, Israel's 5th Dolphin-class submarine, which arrived here at the port from Germany, where it was manufactured. Attending the ceremony were the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as the President Reuven Rivlin and the heads of the army. Now, each of these Dolphin-class submarines plays a critical role in Israel's ability to cope with regional strategic threats. These submarines are able to launch special cruise missiles with a range of up to 1,500 kilometers, and they reportedly can also be equipped with nuclear warheads. So we're talking about each one of these submarines, which really has a real effect on Israel's ability to deter any potential, say, Iranian strike. And indeed, the Israeli Prime Minister mentioned that each of these submarines is able to enhance Israel's ability to deter these threats from the region.
And we stay in Israel, where the Southern District Attorney's Office filed an indictment against 4 men, including a soldier and a prison guard, for beating an innocent Eritrean man on October 18th. After a terrorist attack at the Beersheba Central Bus Station, 29-year-old Hampton Zarhum was mistaken for a terrorist and died of a gunshot wounds, according to an autopsy report, but was also captured on camera being brutally beaten by a mob that included the 4 defendants. The terrorist, an Israeli Bedouin from Hura who killed one 19-year-old soldier, acted alone and not as he was initially thought. And Germany has announced plans to make it easier to throw out foreign criminals and strip sex attackers of refugee status. The decision follows hundreds of complaints of sexual assaults and robberies on women in Cologne on New Year's Eve by men of mainly Arab and North African origin. Meanwhile, police in the German city of Leipzig made 211 arrests after far-right supporters vandalized buildings and burned vehicles on the fringes of an anti-Islamization rally. While over 2,000 anti-Muslim protesters took to the streets on Monday, their ranks swelled by anger over the Cologne attacks.
We are noticeably lowering the hurdles in cases relating to life-threatening crimes, crimes of bodily harm, against sexual self-determination, against property as well, and attacks against police officers. The regulations also include all serial offenders committing property offenses such as shoplifting. A serious reason for deportation already arises if a criminal has been sentenced to a prison term, irrespective of how long that sentence was, and irrespective of whether or not the person is on probation.
And leaders of armed ethnic groups, government negotiators, and representatives of Myanmar's military joined in a meeting today to discuss a fragile peace process, days after Aung San Suu Kyi said it will be the priority for the new government. The I-24 News Desk has more.
Democratic icon Aung San Suu Kyi, along with hundreds of representatives of ethnic armed groups and lawmakers, are meeting in Myanmar's capital on Tuesday for peace talks.
This time, based on the mandate, it is right to do what the people want us to do. We are ready to take the responsibility of building forever peace. I hope everybody will help us.
The goal? To reach a ceasefire agreement to end the insurgencies that have plagued the country for decades. Myanmar's outgoing government already signed such a deal in October 2015, but several armed ethnic groups refused to participate, including some of the most powerful. Despite this, President Thein Sein has assured participants of a smooth handover of power after the 2015 election.
The holding of the Union Peace Conference is an indication that the political transition is moving ahead in a systematic and stable manner.
Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy, or NLD, won a historic victory in last November's election, but her party will not take power until March this year. However, the Nobel laureate remains barred from becoming president under the military-drafted constitution. And the military remains a powerful political force. Myanmar's generals ran the country for 49 years, until 2011, when a hybrid civilian-military government was installed. The latest talks in the capital are expected to yield little in the way of concrete deals, but could lay the groundwork for negotiations once the NLD takes power.
And to the world of sports, Sepp Blatter and Michel Platini could face even longer bans after FIFA Ethics Investigation Chamber confirmed it is appealing to increase the 8-year suspensions handed down to the 2 most popular people in world football. The bans, which the 2 have appealed, were imposed over a €1.3 million payment made to UEFA President Platini, signed off by FIFA President Blatter in 2011, which they said was to settle a verbal agreement made 13 years beforehand. And those are your latest headlines on I-24 News. Be sure to join us again in 20 minutes. I'm Danny Swibel. Thank you for watching.